Hey everyone! In this tutorial we're going to take a look at some cell animation techniques that complement the Sketch and Toon render from Cinema 4D. This shows the render out of Cinema 4D. As you can see, it's very plain and simple. And here's a look at just the cell animation created using Paint and Stick and After Effects. And just to clarify, this is the shot that was rendered out of Cinema 4D. The loop was actually done in After Effects. So to get started, make sure your footage is at 12 frames a second and drag it into a new comp. And we'll worry about the compositing later, but let's start right out animating. The first thing we're going to do is put streaks on these letters for the word bowling. So to do this is really easy. Let's make a new solid, apply Paint and Stick, and then we're going to choose a white brush, and we'll go back to the beginning, right to where this letter is going to pop out. And then just make 3 strokes underneath this. Now you may have noticed in the video there was just the slightest outline on this to match with this B. So to do that in After Effects, you can go to Layer Styles and just choose Stroke. And right now that's a bit heavy. I'm going to set this to 1. And maybe I'll start with black, go a little bit more towards gray because it should be subtle, and press OK. Okay, so I'll press T to turn on onion skin and just move to the next frame. And I basically want to connect these lines to make this feel like there's motion blur. So for your sake, I'm going to do a time lapse to the rest of these letters because the process is exactly the same. And even though it's normally good practice to break this up so the strokes will be on different layers, this is such an easy effect that I'm going to leave it all on one layer. Okay, so there's the final result. Let's move on to the explosion when the ball first hits the pins. So to do this, let's make a new solid, apply Paint and Stick, and we're going to use the same colors that are on the ball and the pins. Before I do anything, I'm just going to put on my stroke, right-click, Layer Styles, Stroke, and in this case I want the stroke to be a little bit thicker. I'll make it black. And actually, one of the things I always like to do when I do an impact is place a dot for the point of impact, which we'll say is about here. And we'll make this stroke about 1.5 pixels thick, which feels about the same as the render. So okay, even though we don't want this dot, we're going to leave it there for now, because it's a good reference. So let's get this started off by just doing 1 point of this explosion. So we'll start out with a small line here. Then move to the next frame. I'm going to press T to turn on onion skin. And then let's make it, quite a bit longer and put some arc on it, as if gravity's affecting it. And then think of the length of the stroke as the speed it's moving. So it starts out fast, here to here. And as it fades off, it's going to be a little bit smaller, moving a shorter distance each time. Alright, not bad. I'll press T to turn off onion skin. Actually, I want to just solo this. Alright, not bad. So again, this is a simple enough animation where I think we can do all of these at the same time and kind of follow that template, and it should be pretty easy. So what we'll do is we'll do 5 white ones and we'll do 5 red ones. And just Alt-click to sample the red color. And actually, this might be a case where you want fast draw off. Press D to toggle that, and that's going to show this stroke live. The thing about working with real-time drawing as opposed to fast draw is that it shows everything, but it has to wait for After Effects to render, so it's a little bit slower. So it's really up to you on what you want to do. Alright, now let's take a look. And of course I can erase my center point. I'll just press E to toggle to the eraser. And I'll solo that for a moment. Okay, so to save time, the great part about this being After Effects is that we can just kind of duplicate this and move it around. So I'll press Y, move my anchor point, and then I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to offset this a little bit, maybe move forward in time. Oh, I should probably trim this so that way we have a visual indicator of where the layer is starting and where the last frame is. So I'll start this one a little bit later here. Duplicate it over. Put another one here. Duplicate it over. And put another one here. So let's just play this back and see how it looks. Not bad. If you were less lazy than I was, then you would draw a unique one for each of these. But I'm pretty lazy, so I'm not going to do it. So for lack of a better word, we want to put a pow impact when this ball hits these pins. I'm talking about the old Batman and Robin kind of pow. And I'll show you how I draw those, because they're actually a little bit tricky to draw. So I'm going to make a new solid. I'll apply paint and stick. And I'm actually going to pre-compose it. Just leave the attributes in the layer and go into the comp so we can have a clean comp to work with. So oddly enough, the first thing I'm going to do is create a circle. And this is going to be a guide for my POW. And I'll scale this in. Say, all right, so this is kind of the center. Make this stroke something you can see. And I'll duplicate it. Press S. And I'll make this the outer edge here. So with paint and stick, I'm going to make 7 points. Alright, so we want relatively even slices here. It's not a perfect science, but this always helps me draw these little POW explosion kind of things. The way that I make these little POW graphics is that I start from this center circle here and go outward to this outer circle and try to make the points land on these guidelines. Alright, let's solo this for a moment. And it's beautiful. It's actually not too bad. The reason why I try to do this with guides is because whenever I do it without guides, let me just show you. I'm going to try to freehand this without the reference. You can lose touch of where your center is, and even though you might not know why this looks bad, it's weird that these points here on these centers aren't making a circle, and it's weird that these points here around the outside aren't making a circle. So that's just how I do this. Maybe I'll clean this up. Okay, and I have a pretty good starting point. So I can take this layer and I'll hide my references. And I'm going to go back into my main comp. I'll trim it. And I'm going to scale this down. And try to just get it to animate nice as it expands. So I'm going to hide my other explosion stuff. And I'll just go out maybe 3 or 4 frames. Maybe 5 frames. Oh, and inside of this comp you have to make sure that your drawing is on a hold here. Alright, there it is, so it persists. Yeah, so let's go 5 frames forward. We'll scale this up. Select the N keyframe, right click, and go to Keyframe Assistant, and ease in. And then just shift click and drag and pull this out a little bit. Alright, I think that's good. So again, this is going to be a guide, and then we're going to trace it, because we don't want it to be the same exact texture. Part of the charm of cell animation is that every drawing looks different, and plus the width of the line gets larger, and it will look better if the width of the line stays the same all the way through. So this is another instance where I'm just going to let it time-lapse, because you don't want to see this whole process. Alright, let's play that back. Looks a little slow to me, so what I might do is just cut out a keyframe in the middle. I'll make these whole keyframes, so even though they're not perfectly centered, you can still see them. Alright, and to make this disappear, just select Paint and Stick and press the Clear Frame button. That adds a keyframe where the drawing is cleared. Alright, let's see this in the shot. Not too bad. And now we need to make an outer ring here, so I'm just going to go back to the first drawing and handle that quickly. Alright, now let's fill this with color. So I'm just going to grab an orange here, press F for fill, and I'm going to shift click and drag to bring down my tolerance. Alright, and I'll click there, move on to the next frame, click there, and the next frame. Looks like I have a gap in here. Oh, there it is. I'll just press B. Take my black and just fix that. Press F again. By the way, this is the fill preview. It shows you what you're going to fill before you click. That way there's less filling, undoing, etc. And you can also shift click and drag to increase the tolerance. So that's too far. In general, the higher the tolerance, the better, because it fills closer to the edges. But sometimes you go too high and it goes past the highest alpha value of the edge and fills too far. So there we go there. And the next frame. There. Alright, not too bad. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate these colors to give it a flashing effect. So on the second frame here, instead of orange, I'm going to do yellow. Alright. Now let's fill in this center a bit. So for the first frame, I'm going to set my opacity to 100. And I'll choose yellow. Press F. And I'll fill that in. But then for the second frame, I don't really want to miss what's going on in here, so I'm going to choose orange. Maybe I'll just cut this right down to 50. Then I'll go to my next frame. And here I'm going to switch back to yellow. Maybe I'll go down to somewhere in the 30s. Then I'll go to my next frame. And for this last one, I'll do like 12%. Alright, so now let's play that back. Okay, so I actually just redid this explosion, and this time I have 6 points, and I just put a little bit more love and care in it, especially with the last frame here, where I kind of faded out by using broken up lines. And part of animation is just redoing something when you don't like it, and hopefully getting something better. So, there. While we're looking at this POW explosion, it would be a good chance to put in the impacts when the ball hits the floor, because I want to do the same kind of thing. So because we already have this animation made, I'm going to take this here, duplicate it, turn it into a 3D layer, and just set my anchor point. Make sure that I have this trimmed to keep my comp nice and organized. And I'm going to move this over to where this ball is dropping in. Right here on this first frame. And I'll rotate it. So this makes for a really nice perspective guide. You know kind of where the point should be, what the angle you should be drawing at is. But the problem with this is it's very clearly just a flat card, so you're going to want to retrace over it. The process is exactly the same as I had shown previously, so I'm not going to show it. But I basically retraced this and just made it look a little bit nicer. And just going through the frames here, the way I did it was I kind of had this all around the ball, so it looks like it has a little bit of volume. And then for the fade off, I just made some thin lines and gave them a little bit of the orange so it doesn't look too abrupt when it comes off. And there's the last frame, just a couple of these little lines to fade it out. So next, let's move on to the smoke poof where this is created. So to do a cartoon smoke poof, it's pretty easy. Here's one that I had done previously. And if we take a look, I found a style that I liked. And one of the things that I noticed is that there's usually 3 curves to any of the sides of the smoke poof, and they're all facing in towards the center. So we're going to use a similar technique when we make this smoke poof, is that we're going to start with a guide that's just a sphere. Okay, so I'll just delete these layers because we're going to start this from scratch. So we'll say we'll make the smoke poof about this big when it's at its largest. And now I'll make a new solid, which will be the size of the comp for paint and stick. And I'll start drawing. So looking back again at the reference, we're going to do these inward facing curves all around the sides of the circle. And maybe this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish sections, so that's what we'll do. Alright, not too bad. Then I'm just going to add a couple more big shapes in here. So really, there's not a lot of logic here. I'm mostly just doing this at random. But I think that looks fine. Okay, good enough. So actually, we're at the wrong point in the animation here because we want this to be at the end when this ball is grown on. So we'll say that frame should be about here. So I'll just drag those over. There we go. And I'm going to go back to my first frame here. And I'll press T to turn on onion skin. Turn up my number of skins so I can see that later frame. That's under future frames. Set this to 5. And then I'll do the first frame for my poof. And I'm basically looking at these major parts of the cloud and trying to imitate that. Alright, and again, this doesn't have to be perfect because it's just cartoon smoke, but trying to make it plausible that this shape turns into that shape. So I'll move forward, and I'll press U so I can see my keyframes. And I'm going to do the next one, which I think will be much larger because I want this to grow at a very fast rate and then settle in. So I'm looking here, and I'm looking here. I'll say, alright, maybe something like that. I'm just going to shut off the past frames for a second because they're a little distracting. Alright, and I don't think I need my reference anymore. I'll just delete that. And I'll move to my next frame, and I'll do another in between. I'll actually turn on past frames to 1. Alright. I'm just going to turn off onion skin for a moment. Just kind of wing it over here. Alright, and that doesn't look too bad. It's okay to have some random motion in there because it is smoke. And then we're going to do a frame where this cloud is a little bit more broken up. So I'll turn my onion skin back on. We only have one pass frame, which is all we're going to need, just to stay within the same rough shape. So we'll say that this piece of the cloud here, it's broken up into a piece like that. This one here, to a piece like that. So I'm just looking at each of these curves and saying, all right, each of these curves represents a small piece of mass of the cloud. So slightly further out from the center from where that curve is, I'm going to create a volume that is closed. So it shows the cloud breaking up. Maybe I'll just put one big one in the center just so it doesn't feel too empty. I'll press T. And maybe it would be good to solo this. That's not too bad. Alright, so let's go put in one last frame, or maybe 2 more frames where these are reduced in size. Alright, let's play that back. Not too bad. And let's add one more frame here, and this time turning on onion skin again, of course. I'm just going to do lines. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so now we have to fill this with color. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go through and make sure that all my lines are closed. All right, looks good. And I have a smoke color that we're going to use here. So you can just press F to bring up the fill tool. And I'll shift click and drag to bring down the tolerance because apparently that's too much. Click there. Next frame. Actually, I think the smoke color might be a little bit dark. I'm going to choose a lighter one. One thing I'll do is I'll just hover my mouse outside of here and make sure that all these seem like they're closed. They are. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through and fill all of these. And nothing on the last frame. All right, so let's play this back. Not bad. All right, so now we have to add some shading. If we go back to our previous example here, just adding a little bit of shadow in there works kind of nice. So to do that, let's split this up. I'm going to duplicate this layer, and on the bottom, we'll just call this Poof Fill. And under Advanced, I'm going to choose Fill Only. So if we solo it, you can see it's just the fill. And I'm going to duplicate this over again. And on the top, we're going to call this Poof Strokes, or Poof Lines, whatever you want to call it. I'm a little inconsistent with my naming. I believe in the effect it says stroke and fill. Lines, stroke, whatever, same thing. So I'll just set this to stroke only. And if we take a look, that is showing just the strokes. And then here we have the layer which has both of these. And actually I'm going to use this as a matte. It'll make the shading a little bit easier. So I'm going to make a new solid. I'll call this Poof Shading. Apply a paint and stick. And we're going to set this to alpha matte for the layer above it. So what's going to happen is when we do our shading, it's looking at this whole thing and it's going to say, all right, so the shading can only happen within the alpha of these drawings. With paint and stick selected, I'll select that darker color. And I don't really have much of a strategy when it comes to shading. I mean, I guess it makes sense that the light is coming from the top to shade at the bottom, but also a little bit on the edges around the top too, so that way the surface looks more round. I think this is just one of the things you have to experiment with. Soloing these so I can get a little bit better performance. And again, I'm using Fast Draw, which is going to only update after I'm done drawing. It gives you the best drawing feedback, however it prevents After Effects from rendering. If you want to, you can switch that off. Alright, and there's a smoke poof. Okay, so here's where our animation is at. And the last technique we're going to look at is adding some motion blur to this ball, because when it takes off, it's just kind of rolling along there, and we want to add some sort of a trail. So to do this, my comp is actually getting kind of dirty here. I'm going to pre-compose my CG, and I'll just type in ball trail. And I'm just going to do the animation in here. It'll be a little bit cleaner. So I'll make a new solid, call this trail. As usual, apply paint and stick. And I think it would be helpful if we had some onion skins for this ball. So what we can do is duplicate over this layer. And I'm going to solo it. I'm going to go to Effect, Keying, Color Range. And I'm going to choose this red color, so it's keying out the red. Then go to Effect, Channel, Invert, and Invert Alpha. So right now this is soloing this red, and then the last thing we have to do, because we inverted the alpha, it messed up the background. I'm going to duplicate over the layer again without the effects on it, and set this to alpha matte. Alright, so the purpose of this tutorial isn't to teach compositing. If that's confusing, I'm sorry, but just, follow those steps, you'll be fine. And pre-compose. And then what you can do is add onion skin. So apply painting stick, make sure paint on transparent is off, and under onion skin, click enable. And let's set the past and the future frames to like 5. So now let's put a trail on this ball. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to sample the color of the ball here. And looking at the previous skin, I'm just going to draw a trail in that general direction. Now, if you go to fill this, it's not going to behave as expected. I'll just press F. And that's just because it's not filling what you see on screen, it's filling what's on this layer. So if you want to fill this, just remember to close over this layer here. Press F, and then fill. Okay, cool. And under layer styles, let's just go to stroke, set the color to black, and set the size to about maybe 1.5. But just generally eyeball it until it looks about the same. Alright, I'm not going to use fast draw because I want to see the stroke as I'm drawing. And actually, another thing I'm going to do is cover this over in red here. So I'll go to Layer, New, Solid, Red, Paint and Stick. So just repeat this process for every frame. Okay, so just kind of on a whim here, I just reshaped the tail. I thought it would look a little nicer if I put a little curve in it. I hope that doesn't throw you off too much. But anyway, back to the process of fixing where this overlaps with the pin. So it's just for 3 frames. So what I'll do is I have this tail layer, and I'm just going to pre-compose it, move all the attributes in the new comp. Then I'm going to duplicate my render, put it over the top, and set the opacity to 30 is about good, and I'll lock this, so that way I can't touch it. And then on the tail layer, I'll apply paint and stick. I'll shut off paint on transparent so we can actually see it. And then I'm going to use the matte brush. I can get to that by pressing M. Shrink this a bit, and I just want to shut off show brush and cursor because I don't need to see the preview. Might make things a little harder. And then I'm just going to erase away the tail where it overlaps with the pin. It's only 3 frames. This will be the path of least resistance. Rather than trying to make a mat or something. And just as a reminder, I'm pretty used to fast draw, so I usually keep it on. But as I move to this next frame, I turned off fast draw so I can see what the matting looks like, what the matte brush does in real time, and maybe that will make more sense to some of you. So again, the difference is that when I have fast draw on, toggled on with D, it's just going to show where my strokes are as fast as paint and stick can do it. And when I have fast draw off, it's going to show everything happening and updating in After Effects in real time. But of course, the issue with that is sometimes when you have a lot of layers, that can be kind of slow. Do whatever you prefer. Alright, I'd say that works pretty well. Now I don't need this layer here on the top, I'll just delete it. And let's play through this one more time. Alright, I think that works. Looking at where my animation is right now, I think I want to add some of these kind of confetti trails to the bowling letters as they fall. So again, I'm going to time-lapse this because it's the same technique as was shown before here, and also as shown when these letters are coming on. And the only thing that I'm going to note is that I'll solo this layer here, and I'm going to use onion skin with past frames, so I have a trail for my letters, and that's going to help me decide where exactly my confetti line should go. Alright, so that took about a half hour. I really just improvised. I used one layer and just kind of went at it. So now the next thing I want to do is with all these red trails, there's just far too many that are red. I want to make some of them white. Well, you may be asking, why didn't I do that while I was animating? Well, because I just wanted to get the motion down. Here's a layer right here. And because it's actually pretty easy to change the color of these lines after the fact. So how we're going to do that is let's make a new solid here. And this solid should be this color. So make this new solid and we'll call this bowling trails. Sure. And grab the eyedropper and make sure you have this red. Okay, so put this beneath the trail animation and set it to alpha matte. So now this is just showing this layer and it's matted by the layer above it. Just for example's sake, let's go to generate 4-color gradient here. So if you take a look without the alpha matte on, this is what this layer is now. It's got a 4-color gradient on it. And it's going to exist inside of this matte right here. So alpha matte, that's what it's doing. And I'll just delete that 4-color gradient now. The reason why I chose this red color was so that the streaks would be red by default. However, I'm going to put paint and stick on here, shut off paint on transparent, and then choose white. And now what I can do is just draw over the particles that I want to be white. Okay, so right here, this is not going to be a very fast process, but I'm going to say let's just do every other one. So this one will be white, fill that in, see how that works. This one, this one, and this one. And pretty much just going to go frame by frame. Onion skin isn't going to do anything here, which is a little unfortunate. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to use an adjustment layer. So new, adjustment layer, paint and stick. You don't have to use paint on transparent because it's on an adjustment layer, so obviously that option doesn't even show up. Then we'll turn on the onion skin here. And in the onion skin tab, I'm actually just going to go to the past frames and shut off the tint amount. And I'm going to turn the near opacity way down. So what this is going to do is it's just going to let me see very clearly what color the frames behind were tinted. And actually, I don't want the future frames at all because that's just going to confuse me. All right, so see what's happening here. So you can see which of these were white in the previous frame. So I'll go back a frame here. See? Here are the white ones. Then when I go forward, you can see which ones were white. So I'm going to go back to my red solid layer, select paint and stick, and I'm just going to follow along with that. It's definitely going to be a pain where they cross, but the motion is happening so fast I don't think I have to be too precise with it. Alright, I think I'm definitely going to put this on time-lapse because this could take a while. Alright, that has been colored. So the next step will be to put the little stroke on it so it looks like the cell render from Cinema 4D. So we can delete this adjustment layer, we no longer need it. And let's take these two layers here. These are the ones that, that create the streaks, and we'll pre-compose them together. Right click, layer style, and go to stroke. I'm going to go back so we can compare it to some of the other drawings here. And again, the number we've been using for this project was 1.5. And the stroke color was black. And there you go. It's basically an instant party. So something else you might have noticed is missing is if you take a look at this ball right here, it doesn't actually have the finger holes that a bowling ball should. So this is very easy to fix. This shot was rendered out of Cinema 4D, and when I rendered it, I created the paint and stick passes, so here they are. This is the sticky pass, and this is the ID pass. Just gotta make sure that's interpreted at 12 frames a second like the shot is, or else that'll cause problems. So I can take these two passes, and I'm just gonna put them at the bottom of the comp because you don't want to see them, and turn off their visibility. And I'll create a new solid, and apply a paint and stick. Now where it says sticky pass, I'm going to put in this one that says sticky pass, and where it says ID pass, the one that says ID pass. Well, it says ID, but close enough. Sticky. ID. And now I can paint on this. So just for example's sake, then I can press the stick button. And now that paint is stuck. So I'm going to delete that paint and actually just make 3 circles. Very easy to do. Holding down shift when I create them, so that way they're perfectly circular. And I'll duplicate it over, slide that over here. Maybe a little more. Duplicate it again. Try to make that look about even. Not too bad. And then maybe I'll parent these to this one, so that way I can just kind of rotate this. Okay, I think that looks good. So to get these onto the bowling ball, the way you do it is with a screen capture, and you do that by soloing these layers, so that way you're only capturing this. So just take a look. This is the only thing on the screen, just these 3 little circles here. Then take this paint and stick effect, the one that we were using, and hold down shift. It says capture screen as paint, so then you can just click. Alright, and now if you press U, it has created a keyframe here. Ignore this one, this is just from me drawing. And I can take these 3 shape layers, and I'm just going to pre-compose them, and we'll just say bowling ball holes. And I'm just going to trim them to this current frame, so that way I know which frame that I stuck on, and I'm just going to hide this, because I don't need this anymore. Alright, so on this bowling ball holes layer, the one with paint and stick that we just screen captured to, take a look. Now this is just paint right here, which means that when we press the stick button, those holes are stuck. Also, it's worth noting that there's a lot of different painting and layers going on down here, you know, with the tail or whatever. So just make sure that this one is above those, so that way they won't go underneath. And while we're here, let's just take a quick look at the capabilities of paint and stick for this shot. Everyone loves branding, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to brand all of these objects with the paint and stick logo. I'll clear my current paint. Then I'm going to stick here. And maybe we could use some more branding up here so we know that this is created in paint and stick. Just make a couple of these. Okay, beautiful. The scene looks much better now. And now I can just press this stick button. And when I play this back, alright, and look at how great that looks. Okay, but seriously, don't do that. But the whole point is that you can. Alright, that's it. So using these very simple techniques, you can add cell animation to your projects quickly and easily. Please let me know if you have other questions, feedback, feature suggestions, or if there are any other tutorials you'd like to see. Thanks for watching. For more info, check out aescripts.com/paintandstick.